Never stop dating your wife. All right. Sudu and I have been talking for a couple minutes now. We're supposed to start podcasting. Never stop dating your wife. I've been with my beautiful wife, Emily. There she is. There's honey.
Beautiful.
13 years. And I just need to know if my wrist game is still on point. All right. Emily, you can't spell menu without me and you. So what's up? You hungry?
I aspire to have what you have, man.
This doesn't pay the bills. Okay. So you have to be witty. And even
It
then,
actually does pay the bills, though. Let's be real.
no, not all of us can be pretty like you. This is the
Stop it.
Flagship. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. That matters less than the website that I write for, the OMSpirit. OMSpirit.com and Flip on 3. Where Sudu used to work. For me, with me, together. That's baby bro over there. Sudu Upadhyay. I've heard it pronounced Upadhyay. I've heard it pronounced Upadhyay. Upadhyay. But for me, it's baby bro. What's up? It's Ole Miss-Georgia week, and he's covering Georgia now. What's going on?
What's up, Benny? I've been looking forward to this all year, man. You don't want me on your stuff anymore, so I figured with Georgia on the schedule that you'd finally welcome me back and let me talk to the beautiful people of the Spirit.
No. First of all, I'm not going to let you make me the asshole again. No. Second of all right, I have tried to get Sudu on the podcast because we did it together for a spell. This has been many iterations, this podcast, many iterations since its inception with Control
Back
Lock
when you used
buddy.
to bully me on the podcast and people used to have to stand up for me on social media.
I tried to get him on when he was with WWE. I tried to get him on when we do this, that, and the other. And he was like, hey, Ben, who gave me my break, I pestered you in your mentions on Twitter. That little Nepalese charmer from Oxford High School just bullied your way into my life. And you have to go through my publicist.
I would have never said that to you, Ben. I anytime I was able to, I would have come on. Now, WWE, different rules over there. I wasn't allowed to do a lot of things, but I didn't even use my own name over there, right?
But now it's Sudu Upadhyay.
I'm back to being, yes, I am back to myself.
As your mother intended, okay? And tell the people what you're doing. Here's the funny thing that Sudu, the tough position that he's in this week. All right. He'll admit it. It's fine. He's an Ole Miss grad. He loves Ole Miss football. But now you cover Georgia, and this is Ole Miss-Georgia week. This is inarguably one of the most significant weeks for Ole Miss football, most significant regular season games in program history. All right. And Georgia is the back-to-back defending national champions, 9-0, undefeated, both, an overall record and also the SEC. It's the game of the week. The line is 11.5. All right. The smallest line against Georgia all year.
Yeah.
And you got to either pick with your brain or your heart, man. Now, I know where heart wants to go.
Yeah.
Don't try to even lie.
I know.
It might even get him in trouble at work. I'll stop.
Well, I'll tell you this. Yeah. So what I do is I work for Fox 5 Atlanta, but the main thing I do is I handle all of the Georgia programming. So they just got this new contract with the University of Georgia to become the official television home of Georgia athletics. And awesome. I'm the guy they brought in to handle all those operations. I produce 2 shows. I host one of them, report on one of them. So my entire existence is making Georgia look really good. And also covering it, so to speak. But you know how these things kind of blend together, right? So I will say this. I've obviously covered this team for 9 games this season.
Yes.
I've watched them the last 2 years as well. And of course, have always watched Ole Miss closely, always will. One thing you forgot to mention is not only did I go to Ole Miss, I grew up in Oxford. My dad worked for the university. I wouldn't even be doing what I'm doing.
That's what I'm
for
saying.
Eli Manning. I mean, I wrote a piece on the Spirit. I don't know if you could still find it, but about how much Eli meant to me, not just as a fan, but really for my entire life. And so I need to get all this out before I ultimately say what I'm going to say. I'm seeing so much joy amongst this fan base right now, right? And you should feel very happy. This team is good. It's really good. It's a top 10 team in the country. Mm-hmm. You've got one of the best records. I think they haven't started 8-1. It's just the 3rd time in program history, and I think
60
twice
years.
Yeah,
the 3rd time in the last 60 years. Yeah.
That's insane. And twice under Kiffin. I mean, you got a great quarterback. You've got a great running back. It's a really exciting team. But man, all year I've been watching Georgia.
Oh, no.
And it's been giving me this hopeless feeling, Ben. Like, how? How does Ole Miss ever beat a team like this or even get to this point? They've got 5 stars on their scout team, man. They lose guys, the best players. Brock Bowers goes down. Their leading receiver from last year didn't even start playing until a couple of weeks ago. They just keep finding ways to win. All these teams come in here, they give Georgia a fight, but at the end of the day, football is 4 quarters, not 3. And this team is inevitable. I mean, they keep finding freaking ways to win. And I really want to find something to be able to say, man, the Rebels really have a shot in front of 92,000 fans at nighttime in Sanford Stadium on senior day. But it's really hard.
We've lost him completely.
I know people are going to say that, oh, he's drinking the Kool-Aid, but
of course, I just precipitated that. Like, I made sure to stir the drink. You know what I mean? Like, yes, of course they're going to say that. Brock Bowers being out is a big deal. He's the best player in college football. I do agree with you that talent top to bottom, as far as strength of roster, it's not comparable. It's just not. Right. However, there is something in this game. I used to dismiss it completely in baseball, the non-human element of sport, or maybe it is the human element of sports that we dismiss so easily. Ole Miss is on a heater right now, and there feels something very special about what they're doing, right? Right. So I remember you and I did a podcast together. All right. Going into Memphis week.
I knew this was going to come up.
And Ole Miss was riding high with Freeze, Robert Kimdichie, and Laramie Tunsil, and Laquan. Ben, this Memphis team, there's no way. But Memphis was riding a heater, but Sudu watched the tape, you know? And he said, Ben, man, we're going to go in there, beat the crap out of this team. And then Hugh Freeze uses one of his very best players, who's a defender, as a fullback and gets him concussed. All right.
Well, I also didn't know that half of that football team was going to be out till 4 a.m. on Beale Street. Do I think they have a chance? Of course they do. This is one of the, I mean, Georgia's back into their schedule. The front end was, as everybody has pointed out, not that very strong. But the last few weeks, I mean, you had Florida, which you can say whatever about Florida, but that's a rivalry game. You had that. You had a really good ranked Missouri team come in. Now you got Ole Miss. They got to go to Neyland. Like, they've got a tough little stretch coming up, and I think Ole Miss is just as good as, you know, people want to argue about who's better, Missouri or Ole Miss. What's the tougher matchup? I think those two teams are right there. And they certainly have a shot. I'm looking at Jackson Dart's numbers. They're not very different from Carson Beck's numbers, and some people are bringing up Beck in the Heisman race, right? You look at what Quinshon's been able to do this season. Right. People have said that. Quinshon has been amazing recently, right? And you saw what Cody, or what's his name, Schrader, the Missouri running back, did to Georgia a week ago. So there's all these little things you can point to and go, okay, this is a very interesting matchup. Like, Ole Miss may have a shot, but the thing about Georgia is you can beat them for 3 freaking quarters, or you can hang with them right there. But it's always about finishing against them, and nobody's been able to do it this year. And it literally just relies on, they play disciplined football, they have amazing coaching, and most importantly, they have amazing talent. And they have a lot of it. So they can rotate guys in and out, where your guys may start getting gassed and tired, and you just don't have the depth to keep up with them. And we've seen it week in and week out this season.
You know what this sounds like?
What's that, Ben?
Plot for the Little Giants. Just saying. What did Rick Moranis say? He beat Kevin down Cherry Hill or whatever one time. One time. All right. And yes, they're facing the Cowboys, and they're the Little Giants, and Devin Sawa and Jackson Dart are the same person. All right. This Ole Miss team has played one bad 30 minutes all year. They were up on Alabama 7-6 in Tuscaloosa. Yep. Now, it could play very similarly to that game, because defensively, Georgia's still Georgia, right? But the idea that this Ole Miss team, and understanding that it's only played really one bad half of football, can't go in there. The problem is can you be that team then? And that's where I agree with you completely. Right. Can you be that one? Missouri did it for 3 quarters.
Sure.
Can you be that team that finally finishes it? The odds say no, because no one is doing that. Like, since COVID,
right?
They haven't lost a home game. No. You know,
26 straight games, and I can't even remember how many straight home games it is.
It's pushing 1,500 days.
Yeah. I mean, Will Muschamp at South Carolina was the last guy to beat Kirby Smart's Georgia team. And I think Kiffin said it in his press conference, I can't even ask for advice because he's on the Georgia staff.
Yeah.
All right, good walkthrough today. Closing off last game in the morning with the players. And as we mentioned, good win and really hard-fought game. Really commend A&M for coming back in the game and playing hard. And so now we got to move forward and have a gigantic challenge in front of us. Going to play the number 1 team in the country and playing them at their place and at night. So I think the last time anyone's beat them there was 5 years ago before COVID. And, the last head coach that beat him there, I can't really call and ask because he's now on their staff. So there's not a lot of answers out there how to beat these guys at home. So a lot of people have tried. And so we got to have a really good week of practice. This is a very challenging combination now of having elite, phenomenal players and elite, phenomenal coaches combined and on the road. So there's a trifecta of what's the hardest thing to pull off, and this would be it.
The College Corner is headed to Oxford. Stop by their new location in the Oxford Commons off Sisk Avenue. They'll have 4,000 square feet of Rebel gear ready for your trip to the Grove. On your next trip to Oxford, stop by the College Corner or our other great locations in Ridgeland and Flowood. Hats, shirts, polos, pullovers, sweats, t-shirts. College Corner has it all. And as always, you can visit us online at collegecornerstore.com. That's collegecornerstore.com. The College Corner, where your game day apparel meets.
Introducing the new and improved BNA Bank mobile app. From setting transaction alerts and tracking your spending habits to managing travel plans and turning off a lost or stolen debit card, you can take care of all of it in the new BNA mobile app. At BNA Bank, we know that life moves pretty fast, and we have the mobile technology to keep up with your life on the go. BNA Bank. Local, invested, modern banking.
Look, at the end of the day, you're going to have a perfect game, literally as perfect as it gets. If this was in Oxford, I would be a little more confident. I might even say, oh, this is a tough one. Because I haven't been to the Vaught. It's been a couple seasons, but I've heard it's been insanely good this season. I've heard people have showed up. I've heard the student section's the best it's been in God knows how long. But that, I think, would have made a difference. But I mean, you're going to need Jackson Dart to have the best game ever. And this has to be like the, oh my goodness, he has arrived kind of moment that sets Ole Miss up for a potential run in that 12-team playoff next season. Like, it would have to be that kind of game for Jackson Dart. Quinshawn would have to run for 100+. He could still run for 100+. I think that's one of the weaknesses of this Georgia team is the run defense hasn't been the best. Jackson would also have to probably run for another 40, 50, 60 yards on the ground. You would need to really be able to attack this Georgia secondary that's really solid. There's really one corner spot that's a little shaky for them. The rest of this defense is really solid. So you need to do that. You would have to have no mistakes, no turnovers whatsoever on offense. Then you would need to force a Georgia offense that really doesn't turn the ball over to make some turnovers as well. You would probably need to make a big play on special teams. That's something Georgia also has going for it is they have a really good punt returner, kick returner as well, solid field goal kicker, solid punter. Like, you're looking at all three phases of the game being as perfect as possible to be able to beat this team. But there's one corner spot that Keely Ringo, who's now in the NFL, manned a season ago, they're still kind of struggling to fill that. There's a guy named Dalen Everett. He's had some bright moments, but he's still kind of struggling, and a lot of teams will be able to pick on him. Julian Humphrey, number 12, he kind of got picked on a little bit last week, made some big plays, and that's the thing with Georgia. These guys go in, they get exposed a little bit, but then eventually their athleticism wins out. So they think maybe Humphrey can take that next step. But Dalen Everett, number 6, I think if Trey Harris is lined up with him, that's a guy you could definitely pick on. I think Dayton can pick on him as well. That's really the weak spot of their secondary, that other corner spot that's not manned by number 3, Kamari Lassiter. So
I love how you and Dayton are on a first name basis, man. You and Dayton.
Who, Dayton Wade?
You and Dayton.
Dayton Wade. Dude, I've been a Dayton Wade guy since before Dayton Wade blew up. I was like, that guy's going to be really good. I liked him more than Watkins originally. I was like, man, this walk-on, this guy, Dayton Wade, pretty solid.
Carson Beck, I haven't watched much Georgia this year, I'll be completely honest. So I wanted to ask you this because I didn't ask you. I spent my entire podcast just trolling Sudu because he knew I would. Like, that's all I would do. Carson Beck,
Yeah.
He's getting like some sleeper Heisman love. And I say that's
Yep.
more because the field is so bad. Like no one has emerged and said, I want to win the Heisman this year. You can make Jaden Daniels has made the best case,
Yeah.
but
I think Michael Penix probably isn't getting enough love either.
Yeah. But here's a player that here late in the season with only 3 games left for Ole Miss in the final month of the regular season, he's getting some sleeper love there. Is that fair for him? Is that warranted, or is it a little bit of Georgia love being shown to the quarterback, the most high profile position there?
I think it's both. I think when you got an undefeated team, one of the top teams in the country, and you're the quarterback, and you're producing week in and week out, that Heisman love is understandable. I think the numbers are just not going to be there for him to be able to do it. But the thing about Carson is he's very efficient. 72% completion percentage, I think, this season. He's only thrown 4 picks. I think a couple of them were like against, bad teams. He was in a good rhythm and he kind of took some shots. And later he was kind of like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have thrown that. So what wasn't really even mistakes that you can really pin on him. He's been rock solid. And more than anything, the stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheet is what makes him good. There's so many times that you look at certain plays that, Georgia succeeds on, whether they're run plays or whatever, and you see what's happening before the snap, and it's Carson checking them out or bringing in a protection or changing it up in some way that puts him in a position to succeed. And people don't see that. I don't think he's getting a lot of love because he's not the type of guy like Stetson Bennett where he's going to run around and make these insane plays that are going to be on SportsCenter every week. But he's got a great arm. He's got a very high IQ. He's got the size and build of a prototypical quarterback, and he doesn't like to run the ball. But if you give him space, he can also run the football. Like, he's not going to be like Stetson Bennett. He's not like Jackson Dart or even the Cook guy, Brady Cook, that they just played against Missouri. But he can do it. He's not just going to be a statue in the pocket. He can roll around and move. So Carson, personally, I don't think gets enough love, even from Georgia fans. Like, most of the season, they wanted another guy to be the starter, and I think they're finally starting to come around on him. But if you're looking at Carson Beck and going, oh, our defense is good this season, we can really pick on this guy. I would ask you to go watch some video of him, and I think you will find that he's a really efficient, composed quarterback. Never loses his cool. That's the biggest thing about him. Always has the same face. Even in the biggest moments where they're down against Auburn, that one comes to mind, where he was so composed. His first true road game. He's been in the system for like 5 years, by the way. This was his first year starting, but he sat behind Stetson Bennett and other quarterbacks and waited his turn. So he's just calm and composed, and it shows in his play.
I think you want to give in. I think you want to call for a much closer final score.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you're talking about just strictly from a fan standpoint, if I wasn't covering Georgia and still watching them from afar, I think I would feel a little more confident as far as, if I had an experienced Sanford and I wasn't covering this team week to week and didn't know the roster front and back. Sure, I would think, okay, they can, as long as they can hang in there, Lane can coach the game of his life, which we still need to see that from him. They've got a shot. They could maybe pull one out. Maybe it comes down to a field goal. That would be my thinking, the Sudu that you're talking about. But the guy that's got all the information, that has watched both teams, these are the only 2 teams I watch this closely. I watch every Ole Miss game, and I watch every Georgia game, every snap for both teams. So I've seen it all. With that information, it's hard for me to say, okay, Ole Miss is going to come in here and upset Georgia.
It's deja vu, like Yogi Berra said, deja vu all over again, because I swear, first of all, I mean, we work together at the OMSpirit. OMSpirit.com affiliate on 3. He's baby, bro. All right. But also, these were the exact same words that poured out of your mouth for Ole Miss Memphis. And you told me, Ben, I've watched every snap. I've watched the tape, top to bottom. Ole Miss has got
Memphis is different, though, Ben. You know this.
Oh, it's easy in hindsight, my friend.
I've also been on the other side of that, right? Like when Ole Miss, Matt Luke's team came into Memphis, I don't think you had me on that week. I think Red Cup actually had me on. And those guys, I mean, I told them Ole Miss isn't going to win this game. It'll be close. They're not going to win this game. Norvell's team is way too well coached. They have better talent right now. They're not under sanctions like Ole Miss is. And they did not believe me. So I've been on both sides. I've covered Memphis unbiasedly.
But that doesn't fit my narrative for my Ole Miss podcast. Stop.
I just want to let people know that I'm always going to make an informed decision without emotion when we're talking professionally. Now, if you want to talk to me as a fan and you want to give me a call at some point, then maybe it's a different story.
He's picking Georgia to win and win pretty comfortably. However, one time. That's all I need you to say. One time.
Okay.
You play football because you want to. You play football because it's fun. You play football so you can go out there and pretend that you're Joe Montana throwing a touchdown pass or Emmitt Smith going for a long run. And even if those Cowboys are better than you guys, even if they beat you 99 times out of 100, that still leaves
one time. One time. Yeah. One time.
One time.
Let's go. Hey, Sudu Upadhyay. Tell them where they can follow you and check out all your stuff, because I do have a lot of people that still bring you up constantly. Like they miss you over there. You have a home at the OMSpirit, OMSpirit.com, and on 3 always.
I appreciate it, Benjamin. Yeah, no, you can find me on Twitter at Sudu_TV, Instagram at SuduTV. I'm just doing my thing over here, man. Having a good time living in Atlanta. I love it out here. Haven't been able to get to Oxford as much as I did the last couple of years. Back in, 2021, the year after COVID, I think I went to like every home game. I went to an away game. Like, I was really watching every single game. It was awesome. I went to Neyland for the golf ball game. Like, had a great season where I got to go, I think, the most games since I was a student. And then I went to WWE and only got to go to one last year. And this year it's only going to be this one. So haven't been able to go to as many as before, but I still find ways to support the reps.
Trust me, if you could see the text. Yeah, he does. You never answered whether or not I still have game. Do I still have Riz? Do I still have Riz, as the kids say?
Look at you. You still got that perfect freaking the Bama Bang swoop.
It does kind of got a Beaver look to it.
You still got the smooth skin and the baby face, bro.
No,
you never lost it.
This is the skin that the sun forgot. That's what happens when you're a ginger. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. Not all of us got beautiful brown skin. Love you. Bye.
Love you, buddy. And I just want to leave with this. Look, this is a very, very good Ole Miss team. I've been enjoying seeing them. The journey Dart has taken from last season to this season, just all the credit to Lane Kiffin with what he's been able to do. Pete Golding, what a blessing. You heard Bama fans bitch and moan about this guy being awful for years. And I used to always be like, is it him or is it something else? Turns out it wasn't him. He's great. And I'm so glad that they have him. But in order to beat Georgia, you can't just be good. You got to be elite. And I think Ole Miss needs to maybe recruit a little bit more, get a little more experience in order to beat a team like Georgia. Next year at the Vaught, now that one, I would circle that one.
One time.
One time, Benjamin.
Put it up. Let's go.